This is A Silent War Within, the podcast dedicated to confronting the unseen mental health battles carried by our first responder and healthcare heroes. This show is about real stories, real struggles, and real ways to survive the storm and come out stronger on the other side. For too long, stigma has kept you silent, but this is your space to bravely break that silence, share vital insights, and build a community where your well-being truly comes first, because your service deserves unwavering support.
Welcome, everybody, to A Silent War Within. We're happy to have you here with us today. As always, I have my beautiful co-host, Michaela. Michaela, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Kevin. How are you?
Good, good. And today we got a guest with us, of course. Morgan is somebody I followed on TikTok for a long time. I really like her content. She talks about her family. She talks about her job as a dispatcher. She talks about numerous things. So I wanted to have her on the show just so we could get to know her. You guys know I love hearing people's stories. I love getting to know them. So Morgan, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great. So Morgan, I always like to hear people's stories. I like to know where you come from. I like to know what led you into this job. I just like to know you, the person behind the TikTok handle, if you will, or the social media handle. I love that. So tell us a little bit about you. You're a first responder, is what I like to call them. You're a dispatcher. Many states don't recognize you as a first responder, which I think is the silliest thing ever. Tell us about who you are and what drew you to this.
Well, I come from a law enforcement background. So I went to college for other stuff. I dabbled in other ideas for careers when I was very young. But at 23, when I thought, oh, I need a career, I need medical, I need retirement, all those things, it was automatic for me to say, oh, I'll go be a police officer, because even my mom in the 80s, which was not common to be a female police officer, she followed her dad's footsteps. So it was just automatic that I would be a police officer. And when I told my parents that, they said, "No, you're not." And I was like, "What do you mean, no, I'm not? What else am I going to do?" And my dad just said, "I don't care. Go be dispatch or something." So I said, "Okay." And I just up and applied and had never really thought about 911. I just assumed I would be an officer like them. And when they told me, "Heck no, you're not," I just went the dispatch route and applied. And it took, background and all the things, but it ended up being the right decision for me. So thanks, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. So, so when you started this whole TikTok journey, what was the motivation behind it? I'm curious. Like, what says to a dispatcher, I want to be on TikTok?
I don't think there was any motivation. I just would see all those trending sounds, and I would think in my head, "Oh, this would be I could put a first responder spin on this. Oh, this would be so funny if it was an officer saying it to a dispatcher or vice versa or whatever." So that's all I was doing at first, was just making fun of these trending sounds, and then it kind of got bigger and bigger over time. And now I have this fun little first responder community. And like you said, I've shared other things like my husband and I's dynamic and things about my family, and that I'm so close with my family. So people have followed me for some other reasons too, which I appreciate. But I've just kind of grown this little first responder community that I like so much.
I love that. And so what makes you say yes to a first responder and healthcare specific mental health podcast? What makes you say yes to us?
For one, I'm huge on mental health lately. The last like 2 years, I've been focusing on mine. My husband's been focusing on his, and we've really realized what a big journey it is and what the first responder community is truly changing, I think. And the more people that talk about it, that hear about it, I think that'll help the culture slowly shift to not being okay is okay and talking about things is okay.
I agree. And I think that in the last probably, I don't know, I would say 5 to 10 years, we've really started to see that significant shift toward a little bit more focus on mental health. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this was strictly because there's many people out there that suffer in silence.
Hmm.
There's many people out there that go through this and they don't think they have anywhere to turn. They don't think they have anybody who knows how they feel. And after my mental health crisis, I got it. I understood that because I did. I suffered in silence for a long time. And it wasn't until a huge blow up that I realized, oh, I got to do something about this. Like, this is not normal. This is not something that I can carry by myself. So just kind of transitioned into being really focused on mental health and really having an interest for it and watching my friends and what we collectively call our brothers or our sisters in the first responder community struggle with these things. And I was like, people need somebody that they can listen to who gets it. And that was kind of the motivation for starting the show. But I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about you. I think Michaela's geared up for her section of it. So hit it, Michaela. Yeah.
So, Morgan, these people are calling you on the worst days of their lives. And I have heard a lot of dispatchers talk about their own mental health and how that plays a role in how you answer the call every day. Um, Dealing with your own traumas, how has that affected how you answer the phone?
I think over time it actually gives me a good perspective of life. I think once I changed my thought process of coming home and appreciating that I'm home. Every day I come home and I appreciate that I'm going to bed safe and that everyone that I love is going to sleep safe. That really changed kind of my perspective on bringing it home and letting it affect me because other than you still lose people in life and I've lost people. That's the worst of the worst, but everything else, I think I can handle all my stuff because I just heard someone else's worst day and it was worse than mine. So, when I just start being grateful, hear it come out. I don't get upset at callers. I don't get upset at my own life as often because it's just I hear how bad it actually can be, and it helps me find so many ways to be thankful in life. I think over time, that's really changed my mindset on it all.
And just for, because before I started this podcast, I actually didn't know myself. For the layperson who may not know exactly what a dispatcher does, I know most people probably know you answer 911 calls, right? Are you actually the person that's talking, like, when police officers are on a scene, you're the one talking between them to help get them more help, get the EMS, blah, 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 right? So when you're on the,
So
yeah, go ahead.
so it depends on the agency a lot. I work for a larger agency, and a lot of larger agencies, they've split the roles. So you have one person answering 911, and then you have one person working the radio. Smaller agencies, they still have to do both. So they'll be on the phone at the same time that they're also relaying information to officers or medics on the radio. But most agencies have split those two tasks. So one person is getting all the information on 911, talking to the citizen, and then the other person's working the radio. And I've done both jobs, and I've even done it where I'm working a radio channel, but then I want to help with 911. So then I accidentally do end up dispatching my own 911 call too, but that's rare. But I've worked both roles, but a lot of times it's one or the other.
And so on a normal day-to-day basis, like, talk to the people about what kind of mental toll that actually plays on you, like those calls. Like, what does it feel like to get those calls every day that are like so high energy, so high emotions?
Yeah. It for 911, especially people that are strictly 911 call takers, it is a lot. And I actually just recently read about truncated trauma, and it is perfectly describes what 911 goes through because our nervous system, when most first responders handle a call, an officer, an EMT, a medic, they go through the whole wave of the emotions. They get the adrenaline spike when they hear the hot tone, they flip on their siren, they start going, and then they get there, and then they're also part of the solution. So they kind of ride that wave down too. 911 doesn't get that. We get cut off from what's going on at the peak of what's going on when our system is feeling it the most. And we can go from that saying somebody has been shot or a CPR call, something really intense, and we're at the peak of that trauma, and then it gets cut off. And not only it gets cut off, but then you answer another call, especially if you work for a really busy agency, your phone is going to ring again. You're just automatically going to be fed another call. So it is just back to back to back. And then you never know if you're going to go straight into another really traumatic one, or it's going to be my neighbor's parked on the wrong side of the road. Okay. And you're just like riding this roller coaster, and it is just back to back to back. And we do it for where most agencies are understaffed. So everyone that I know of is basically doing 10, 12, 14-hour shifts. So you're tired. Imagine, you're calling in a noise disturbance, and the person that you're talking to has been there for 11 hours and they just did CPR on a child. It's a lot, but
Yeah.
but
And I
that's
can
what we're there for.
And I can imagine too, you seem like a very like you want to help person, like you seem very empathetic. And I imagine as someone who's not in that space that not being able to actually physically help is also a part of that. Like you hear these people and you just want to like reach through the phone and like help them.
Yeah.
How does that feel? How does that helplessness feel every day?
I think I put it in such a perspective that I am such a key piece to the puzzle that it does sit okay with me just because I know, like, I'm that first start of contact. I'm starting the help. I'm doing my part. It is interesting though when we have like officers come up and sit with us and they're like, which I'm like, "Are you okay, buddy?" And they're like, "How do you sit here? How do you just do this and don't run out of your headset?" And I said, "Because it's my part in it." And I think maybe because I've done it for so long and it felt so right as being my part of it, I've always been at peace with it, but it is kind of hard. But then I remind myself they have to like first responders have to smell things and see things that I don't want to see. So I'm like, my part, I'm good with my part, actually. I actually don't want to see it. Like I have such an appreciation for the other side of the radio that I'm like, no, 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 I'm good here. I'm doing my part here. So I think of it that way, and I think that helps. I do know a lot of other 911 do struggle with it, that they don't want to just be up there. And I can't actually tell you how many call takers I know that then they end up transferring out and they're now wearing a badge or an EMT shirt. And I think that's amazing. And I think they have an appreciation for dispatch now on that side. And I think it's a wonderful like journey for them. So I do know a lot of people do struggle with that. Me personally, I just love my little puzzle piece of it.
And being on the opposite side of things, being a little vulnerable here, have you ever had where you were on the opposite side of the phone and you had a call in for something that was an emergency?
Mhm. It's very
Yeah.
weird. It's very weird, and we actually say in dispatch, like, we hate it when other first responders call because they're talking like they're on the radio, and it's just so it throws you off because you realize you're talking to another professional, but it throws you off of your own game, and it's interesting, but yeah, every time I've had to call in, I'm like, "But I'm good with info, I at least know the checklist," and a couple times when I know I'm in my own area and I know I'm talking to one of my coworkers, I identify myself right away. And they're like, "Oh, hey." And I remember one time I didn't, and I gave like the location, I gave how many it was a really bad car accident. I gave how many vehicles were involved. I gave a plate right off the bat, and I was saying it like phonetically. And then I said a code, and then they finally said, "Are you PD?" And I said, "No, it's Morgan." And they're like, "Oh." And I was like, "Oh."
Yeah.
It is so weird, but you do kinda go and I at least, like, went into that first responder mode of just, like, information and how can I help type of thing, and it's
Absolutely. And I've had to call for my 88-year-old mom that lives with us. And I'm like, from a paramedic standpoint, when I'm calling in, I'm like, they're like, "What's the address of your emergency?" Of course, and I give the address, and they're like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Well, she's having abdominal pain times 3 days. She's weak. She's this, she's that. I think," and I start diagnosing. I'm like, "I think she's having this and this, and you probably need to send these people." And they're like, "Who
Like,
is this?
how do you know?
Do we know you?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, y'all probably do."
Yeah.
So it is weird. I can completely relate to that for sure.
Yeah. We can always tell when we're talking to another first responder, no matter how hard they try to hide it and just act normal. We're like, "Who are you?"
I'm an international super spy.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the like paramedic persona and like when you have to put on a completely different mask, like to be that professional, calm person in the face of, that high stress situation. How does that feel when you're constantly putting on the mask and taking off the mask? Like, what does that do for your mental health?
I think like when I'm at work, I'm just at work. I think we probably have a really similar persona of when I go to work, I'm just at work and I try not to think about home. If I know I'm going to have a day where I'm not going to be able to focus at work, I'll actually use a sick day. And I think that's a huge thing about telling people don't go to work if you're not okay. And that's okay to tell people. We earn sick time, we earn vacation days, and people don't use them because they're like, oh, I just want to go to
Mm,
work. And it's like, if you're going to do that and it's going to be okay, great.
Yeah.
But if you're not, don't. And when I go to work, I think we have that dispatch persona too. Like we're at work, we're in work mode now, and we're gonna get our job done because I'm here all day.
Yeah, I can imagine that if you're on dispatch, you need to be on your game. You need to be focused, you need to be
mhm.
dialed in. You don't need to be sick or, tired or disoriented or anything like that because that's that person's worst day of their life.
Yeah.
So, I can only imagine that's really important. Mental health day.
Yes,
Mhm.
I'm all about taking your PTO,
Mhm.
and I love
We
that.
talked about this.
Yeah, but I want to go a different direction. So one thing you need to know about me is I'm nosy, and I think we all are to some extent because of the jobs that we do.
Mhm.
But
I
I
am.
want to I want to hear about how you met your husband because your husband's a police officer, right?
Yeah.
So my first wife, and this is why she's my first wife. I went in to meet her because her voice on the radio sounded good, and I was like, I got to meet this girl. She was dispatcher.
Oh. Uh,
So how did you and your husband meet? I'm very curious.
oh gosh, it's gonna feel similar because you just had to know her. My husband, he has he thought we knew each other before we knew each other, and he tells me, he's like, "Do you remember you were my dispatcher for this call?" "No, I don't remember that." "You were my dispatcher for this car?" "No, I don't remember that." But he did. He thought I was the nice dispatcher, and he found me on socials. I did not find him on socials. And we started chatting, and it was just friendly at first, obviously. Had no idea what he looked like or anything like that, but then he did so much overtime, and I was working nights at the time, and he was working days, and I didn't even realize it. And then one day he had said or he started saying, "Oh, I'm staying for overtime. Oh, you can show me on my regular shift now." And I was like, what do you actually work? Are you okay? And then I realized we were on opposite shifts. And then he started talking to me and we started being friendly. And I realized, oh, he was going through a divorce. So he just takes all the overtime. He worked 16-hour days, 6 days a week because he had nothing better going on. And I was like, for one, that's not okay. Like, that's wild. And he would make like jokes and he would try to make bets with me until finally I made a bet with him. I don't even remember what it was. It was about a call or something. And we made a bet and I lost the bet. So I owed him tacos and I had to bring him tacos on my way home from work one day. So he finally met me in person and I was like, "You're kind of cute." And
Well,
he was like,
he is a smooth operator. That
Moved
is
opera.
Yeah.
That is such a first responder move. I know,
Mhm.
man, that
Yeah.
is I cannot name the times I've done that in a previous life. Baby, if
But
you're
Mhm.
he
watching
fell in
this, I
love
don't
with
do
your
that now.
voice.
Yeah.
But he what?
So sweet.
He was like, "You were the nice dispatch. Remember this one time that you got me relief when I was working a perimeter on that shooting?" No, I don't.
Yeah.
But he does,
No,
and that's important.
he does. So bless his heart, but yes, it worked out.
So being married to a cop, I think gives you a very unique perspective because you see both sides of this struggle. You see the 911 side, but you also see somebody that's on the streets, in the ditches, chasing the criminals, all the things, right?
Thanks.
So, how do you guys approach mental health? Because obviously he is in those trenches and doing the work, and you're having to hear it and not be able to respond or do anything, and you have this sense of helplessness. So, how do you guys come together and talk about the dreaded question for first responders? How was your day?
Yeah. It's interesting. So we both I don't promote having a practice marriage in any way, shape, or form. I don't love the fact that I'm divorced or he's divorced, but we did learn from it.
Hmm.
He had someone that he came home to and he couldn't talk to. They, had that wall up. I had somebody I could have talked to. He was a great guy, but I chose not to. I did not want to. I thought that was doing better for me, and it wasn't. Neither one of us did our other relationships any favors. So we did take from that, and when we got together, we realized we weren't okay mentally and how to navigate that, and it was interesting because we started our own individual counseling and our therapy and our mental health. And then we also incorporated it together. And we realized that we actually both probably are talkers. So we come home and I like word vomit. I just want to talk about everything in 20 minutes and then it's done. He sometimes most of the time he does that too. Every so often he comes home and there is that silence, but I know he's gonna eventually wanna talk about it, and so when he does, then I'm ready. I put my phone down, I pause the TV, whatever we're doing, and I give him that attention, and we just vent, and we let it out, and we talk about whatever if it was annoying or rough, whatever it was, we talk, and then it's over. Like, our day was our day, but then, like, our dinner, especially because we have a kiddo, we don't talk about work around her. We
Hmm.
don't talk about work going to bed, and our days off are usually our days off. So I think we have, like, this super great healthy balance of we have each other to talk to, we get it, and then we let it go and we have family time. So I think it was hard to get there, like mentally, even for both of us, realizing that we
Hmm.
needed both. But now it's like we feel so much healthier.
Sure. And I was gonna ask if I mean, but you kind of answered it. So you guys, many first responders that we've talked to that are also married to first responders or dispatchers, because there's a lot of us. I'm married to a nurse. You're either married to a nurse, another first responder, or somebody who used to be a first responder is kind of what we've noticed. And one
Right.
of the things that a lot of people do is they have an agreed upon kind of silent time. You're going to come home, nobody's going to talk for 30 minutes and we're just going to decompress. It sounds like you guys don't have that. You guys have the opposite and you talk to each other and you word vomit. Both are healthy mechanisms for coping.
Uh-huh.
But, I love that you guys are going to talk about it and then you have that disconnect. That's such a healthy routine that you just described. And for anybody listening, that is the goal is not to get rid of any of this stuff, but to find healthy routines to deal with this stuff. Because the likelihood of it is you're going to go back to work tomorrow or your next shift, and you're going to have very similar experiences. You're going to have things that aggravate you. You're going to have things that hurt your heart. You're going to have things that frustrate you. So it's what you guys are doing is great. I appreciate you sharing that with us. That's a really healthy way that you guys are doing that, and value your off time. Make your off time your off time. Don't dwell on the things that happened at work during your off time. It's very, very cathartic to be able to disconnect from a place. like Morgan described. So thank you for that. So from the officer dispatch side, going back to that, where do those two worlds clash? Where does it come together? And has there ever been a time when you're dispatching him on a call that you know is dangerous, that you know he's walking into a bad situation? That's got to be difficult.
Yeah, I don't love it, that's for sure. I think it is hard because I tell people, like, it's fine, and I am in dispatch mode, and he's in officer mode, and we have talked about it, and I've told him so many times. So he is every type of specialty training that you can think of, this man has done, and I just love that for him. But it means he goes to every it means he
Yeah.
goes to every hot call, every worse, because he'll be in a grappler truck. So if we get into a pursuit, he's gonna be like one of the 4 options to grapple it. He's beanbag and he's rifle and he just it's great. It's wonderful. I love it for him. But if I kick any
Yeah.
type of call, I know I'm going to hear his call sign and he's going to say he's en route. And I'm just like, of course you are. But
Are you really happy for him, Morgan? Are you really?
so happy for him. But I've told him, like, honestly, in the heat of the moment, I don't want you to worry that I'm your dispatcher. I want you to get the job done. And tactfully, I do know he is so safe at his job. I'm getting them all the resources. Like, it's kinda like, do I want someone else to work this traffic or would I just rather do it? I don't know which one's better, but we just have that trust, and I just think of it as work and he's gonna go get his job done. I don't love it, but I just try my best to just think of him as like another officer and an officer that's very good at his job. And so I should tell myself not to not to worry, and I try not to. But
But
sometimes
that
he comes home and I'm like, "I heard what you did."
yeah, but that's still got to be such a challenge. Yeah, that's still got to be such a challenge to have those two different personas and to be the dispatcher, to know you have to remain professional, but to also have the innate love that you guys share and go, I don't want anything bad to happen to this human.
Yeah.
And now he's out, I'm sure I have gotten focused for whatever reason. I'm strange like this, but I've gotten focused for whatever reason on all these cop shows. When I started my first responder journey, that was like the childhood dream. I wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
I would not do well as being a cop, but in my head, I thought I would. So I've gotten to where I watch all these cop shows, and even my son, he likes to play cops and he's got all the guns and all the vests and all the things. And he'll walk in and go, taser, 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 right before he tases you. He
Yeah.
didn't have a real taser, but still, we'll never buy him one because he'll actually
Can you
use it.
imagine him with the
Yeah,
taser?
but I can
God.
imagine you're sitting there in the dispatch chair and you're hearing, say, a pursuit, and you're hearing speeds called out in locations and things like that as they do. And you have to be thinking, God, my husband is driving 120 miles an hour to chase this suspect. Like, if he wrecks, this is it. Like, it's over. That's got to be such a mentally draining call. After it's over, you have to lean back in your chair and go, "Ooh, that was tough." To some
Kevin,
extent, at least, right?
hold on, Morgan. Don't let don't let that fool you. To her, that's smoking hot. Just so you know.
I mean,
Oh, no.
I mean, like, my man, she tackled him. He tackled him. Oh, God. Yep.
yeah, unless it's a female suspect, and then she's like, he tackled him
Not for
Yeah.
your
before he tackled her.
Morgan's like, I'm not thinking about that.
Mm-mm.
Well, of course not,
No.
but it's funny to joke about.
And on
Yeah.
the other end of the phone call, your husband's like, he was naked, Morgan. He was actually naked.
Oh, yeah, so many times.
Why are they? Yeah,
I made a TikTok once about sending him to the half naked drunk guy that was pooping in a trash can.
Well, that's the
Sometimes
best.
always naked.
Yeah, sometimes he goes to the really, really gross ones and I get all the details. And I'm like, this is why I'm in dispatch. I don't want to hear this thing. He's like, if I had you said it to me, you're gonna know. And I'm like, oh.
You're like, honey,
Fair
I gotta
enough.
call you.
Yeah.
You left
Yeah.
the toilet seat up this morning, drunk guy pooping in trash cans for
Yep.
you.
Just for you. Yep.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love our dark humor because honestly, that's the only way I survive in healthcare. I love it.
Yeah.
So, on a more serious note, a lot of times dispatchers talk about that auditory trauma from dispatching because people on the phone are, they just woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I know we're taking a dramatic turn, guys. I'm so sorry for people who are listening. That is healthcare. So sorry. But like you wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning and your baby's dead of SIDS and they're on the phone. The mom is literally screaming, can't talk, can't whatever. You're trying to piece together what's going on. Dad's trying to scream from the other room, we're doing CPR and whatever. It's a very chaotic situation. I couldn't do it. I'm so glad there are people like you, Morgan, in the world who can do that stuff. Are there any calls that follow you home? Just be for real.
Yeah. The parents screaming and sometimes the self-harm calls, those ones can sit with you. Weirdly enough, people think like shootings and stuff like that, and I can't tell you how many in progress shootings I've happened. Home invasions where homeowners end up shooting the person when I'm on the phone. And those for some reason they can roll off and it's like I remember them, but it's definitely like the kids calls. I think that's the audible stuff that you kinda nothing compares to seeing it, but those screams you don't unhear.
We just did, who was the guy that we just had on our podcast the other day that was talking about the scream that was replaying, Kevin? Oh, you're on mute, maybe.
Yes, I was on mute. I do that
Sorry.
all the time. Anyway, that was Christopher Blake with the
He was
Blakery
talking
content.
talking about how he heard this scream on this TikTok and it was one that keeps going like when the reel replays over and over and over again and it was just like every time it like went off it was like trauma setting for him.
No, that was Yeet Medic.
Oh, Yeet Medic, that's right. That's right. Is that kind of thing the same with dispatchers? Like, is there anything that really like sets your PTSD off when it comes to stuff like that?
Yeah, when you're going through or like the officer down traffic,
Mm,
um, whenever an officer, loses his life out there, especially because I'm on the first responder side of TikTok, I definitely know I'm gonna come across that traffic. I post, like, the last calls from the funerals and stuff like that, but I try not to post bad traffic of an officer that loses his life, and a lot of other people do, and that's totally fine, that's their prerogative. It's just it stinks knowing when an officer is killed somewhere
mhm.
that we're gonna come across that traffic, like, on social media.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be really difficult. So, talking about, I know you talked about this earlier, but I kind of wanted just to disconnect it. I mean, connect it back together. Can you hear Annie barking? We might have to,
Yeah. No, you're fine. It's not loud.
it's not too bad.
No.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me yell at my dog. I was like, hold on.
The Mississippi's coming out, Michaela.
Orphan Annie over there. Hollering her
I
butt
am
off.
100% keeping that in. You couldn't make me remove that.
Please don't. I'm like, Kevin, please don't. These people are going to be on their phone, on their car, on Spotify, and they're just going to be like, Annie, Sharon. Okay, Kevin, why don't you ask? Maybe she's quit. Okay, maybe I can ask you now. Okay, we'll start back. Okay, so we talked about this before, and we talked about that lack of closure. And we talked about how first responders usually don't have that lack of closure. Is there, when you get that like unfinished feeling, is there any way to like mend that, or is there any way to like instead of just feeling like you're have a cliffhanger?
Yeah, I think that's when dispatch and the streets having a good type of working relationship is huge because 11 years ago when I got hired, it was like you didn't get answers. You didn't know if the baby made it. You didn't know if the house fire, if any animals lost their lives, or you just didn't know like so many things. And there was a couple really big cases that I worked as the 911 side, and I remember being shocked when a supervisor a couple days later was like, "Hey, do you wanna hear all that went down with that?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah," because we never got that. But now I think knowing, like we said before, just our mental health and the fact that people think of 911 now and all the things, that bridge is being like open. That bridge is open to us now, if that's even a saying. And they think of us. Like I found that officers or the sergeants or they're thinking of, hey, can we give that call taker a follow-up? Like, can we let them know that the baby is actually okay? Can we let them know that everyone made it out of the house fire? Like all those things, and I think having that connection with the street is huge, and then them acknowledging that we're part of the community also is huge, and I've noticed a huge shift in my own center, and we're starting this great, like, culture of we're all one team, and I think that if that just goes across the board and people start thinking about dispatch more, that will help 911 call takers of getting that closure, and then also, like, you're not just hearing about stuff when it's bad, you're hearing the good too if a call does end up okay.
And one thing too I wanted to ask was, when you aren't allowed to leave your desk, when you have these calls coming in one after the other, and it's the "my neighbor's parked on the wrong side of the street" call, but then it's the "my kid's not breathing, high stress situation" call. What do you do to be able to just stop the phone call with the neighbor across the street and shift your brain into with the worst call of somebody's life, and then back to "I've had toe pain for 6 weeks"? How does that mental switch go on in your mind?
It's just it's something
Nature.
that yeah, it's just something that we get used to, and I think you get it first day out of training. So you just realize that this is what your life's gonna be, because as soon as you hit the floor, that's day 1, because that's every day. You're gonna get something crazy, and then you're gonna get something not crazy. And I think the big thing is having leadership and peers and stuff that, okay, I did just have this really bad call 3 calls ago, and now I've had back to back to back calls. Well, now I was able to go not ready. Now I have a moment. Can I step off the floor? And it's like, yes, absolutely. So I think having support from leadership, knowing that our mental health matters and stuff like that, and knowing, you have peers that will pick up your slack if you need to run to the bathroom really quick and just like take a moment and breathe so you can reset and then realize, okay, that was really bad. I still have 8 hours left on my shift. I'm gonna have more stupid stuff to go deal with. Okay, and taking that breath and then going back. I think that's a huge piece to the puzzle too, is having peers and having mental health matter within your organization.
And you've been doing this for a really long time, so I'm sure it does feel like second nature to you now that you've been doing it for a long time. What would you say to those people who are just starting out, who may be listening, who are finding it really hard to turn off their brain and switch between those calls?
I think just saying that it's okay, saying whatever feelings that you do feel, it's okay. As long as you're in it for the right reasons, and as long as you do have, like, your support and a good system, you can get through the day, you can take your moments, and you can, like, decompress healthy once you're able to step away, and just really thinking of it as, why you're in it, and I do have to answer the next call because who knows who I'm gonna be helping next. Yeah, it might be Karen, but then the next one might be somebody that really does need me again, and just still being in it because you're in it for the right reason and recognizing what an important piece you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you've done a great job at kind of not only sharing your family and some of your personal struggles as well as other things that you share on TikTok. I think one of the things that you've done well is that you've portrayed that message. You've portrayed that there is a sentiment of like, we have to move on. There's going to be somebody else that needs us. And I've seen a few of your videos where you kind of touch on that and talk about that a little bit and talk about what it's like to be a dispatcher. And I think you're a great a great role model for people to follow if they are dispatchers or if they are someone who is kind of starting to drive down this first responder road and find themselves at kind of an impasse to, okay, what do I do next? But when you were building this TikTok platform, was it healing for you as well to be able to jump on somewhere and kind of have a place to vent and kind of outlet some of your feelings? Was that beneficial for you?
I think it was. My TikTok life has been very interesting because I've almost stepped away multiple times,
Yeah.
but is such a way to look at how I use it, like the funny and the dark humor and making fun of all areas of the first responder world and trying to turn, oh, somebody complaining about getting a broken Kit Kat at the Circle K, like turning that into funny and just seeing the funny of it. I think it was, it can be healing. We say we get this dark humor, but it's because we have a different look at the world, and it's okay. It's okay to think, you know, of funny ways about serious things sometimes.
Yeah. And it's so funny. We had, God, I can't remember her name. And she was one of my favorite guests too so far. But we had this girl on that was her husband was a first responder and she was training to be a first responder specific therapist. So
Mhm.
she was almost done with school and we were talking about dark humor and she said dark humor has actually been proven to be a healthy coping mechanism for first responders. So I think that you do that well in the sense of using that as kind of a type of coping mechanism for people. You make people laugh at the silly stuff and the hard stuff don't seem quite as hard. It's still hard, but sometimes that humor helps us a really good bit to get through some of the more difficult things. You mentioned the person breaking their Kit Kat. Please tell me that was not a real call.
Not that, but I have had the McDonald's isn't accepting my coupon call. So,
Oh, great. We love when you
yes,
call for that. That's
I've
that's
I've
our favorite.
and the not getting their buy one get one and somebody sitting, why is sitting in drive-through lines a thing? That's happened a couple times now. They park in the drive-through and they block the drive-through. I'm like, you're not allowed to do that. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I don't know. Fast food is a hot commodity on 911.
Man, I have never. So, being married to a police officer, do you find that the what we like to reference as the silent war, obviously because of the name of the show, but that mental health struggle that we all kind of inherently have to deal with, do you find that it's similar in ways or do you find that it's completely different on the sides of the spectrum between dispatch and a field person?
I think there's similarities and then it's different also because they see things that there's no comparison, and that is the one thing that I get sometimes comments on, like, hate comments on, like, "You can't compare yourselves to them," and I'm like, I'm not comparing it at all, but saying, "Hey, this was hard for me," I'm not diminishing this was hard for you also, it's just it's like saying, "Oh, if somebody, lost their mom at a young age," and then somebody else says, "Well, I lost my mom and my dad at a young age." It's like, "Okay." Like, we're not comparing traumas. So I think we have our own silent wars, but I think realizing we're in it together, just always thinking like we're on the same team and we do have the silent battles are similar. Even if they're not the same, they're so similar. And that's okay. We're not diminishing each other in either way, but we can go through it together.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you think, just a hot take opinion, do you think that people who have had a really rough start to life and someone who has a lot of triggers and someone who maybe, they've just had a rough life, they've been through a lot. Do you think that being a dispatcher would probably be more hard for them or more difficult for them?
This is so interesting. I went to a wellness conference not too long ago and we had like days of training. It was very interesting that basically the whole room either was first responder kids or they've come from trauma. So it's like if you take the trauma and you handle it well,
Right.
you turn into someone who can give really great empathy and handle these situations really well. So I think a lot of people that have had traumatic childhoods actually become really great first responders. Like, it honestly should be studied at some point because
it is so
That's all.
interesting that you say that,
yeah.
because this is episode 45, and in 45 guests, so we've done 45 different people, and all 45 of them have had some type of childhood trauma. They either come from that relational uh, background of being members of the family, being first responders, or they're married to a first responder. That has been the three categories that almost everybody falls into. And I would venture to say that at least 35 out of the 45 guests have said, I had this massive childhood trauma and I watched a paramedic code my mom, or, whatever it is, they have this huge thing that turned them on to wanting to be something that they weren't able to be at that time.
Yeah.
And so, one thing Morgan I did want to say was, do you feel like that your TikTok is a lot of like making and like humor out of dark situations, right? And
Yeah.
like turning things that would normally be so doom and gloom and actually making them like positive educational spin on things, right? Do you feel like that is an outlet that maybe some people could use to like decompress after their work day and help their mental health?
I
What would you
think so.
Yeah,
I
what would
think
you say to people who might wanna start their own TikTok and things like that?
just do it. But check your department's policies. But do it. That was so I joked, I've almost just stepped away and deleted my TikTok. It's very interesting because people will talk about you. I have a couple coworkers that have every time I do something good, I became a trainer, I started getting complaints. Acting supervisor started getting complaints. Supervisor, new admin, new manager. Every time I have a new boss, they hear about my TikTok. So just make sure you know what you are allowed to post and what you're
Mhm.
not, what you are allowed to joke about, because you, they will find you. Your coworkers will find
That's
you,
right.
and hey, maybe somebody will find you and then they'll end up your husband like mine did, but people that, don't think it's funny will find you also.
Mhm.
So just be like prepared for that and know that it's worth it. The one thing I ended up so happy, and it really is worth it when I've taken the complaints and I get talked to. And even though I'm told time after time again, you're not doing anything wrong, but people are talking about you. And I'm like, all right, great. It's actually been wonderful because when I've posted fallen officers or I've posted things, I get people that know that officer reaching out to me and saying thank you and asking me to share links and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is why I'm in it too. And I'm happy that I haven't let a couple unhappy coworkers like take that from me. But yeah, if you're wanting to get on there, you build this such a great community. I get so many people sending me other TikToks, other first responder things, other memes, and it's like you see so much funny that's out there. It does
Mhm.
help your mental health knowing that there's other people out there for you, and it is great. So if you are wanting to do it and you're wanting to be silly, as long as you know that people will be watching you, it's all good and it's worth it for the
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, Morgan, the very last question that we have for you is, what do you do for yourself? What do you do for your mental health every day to like decompress, let it all out? What does that look like for you? How do you do self care?
Um, it's a lot of things. It's like arts and crafts with my daughter. It's arts and crafts with my husband. It's going shopping. It's getting a drink for no reason, like a swig or a Starbucks. It's just finding the little things and the little moments that you just don't have to stress and you can just appreciate whatever you have. Just appreciate the fact that I can buy a $5, arts and crafts and paint. Just enjoying all the little moments and the little quiet.
Very, very cool.
I love
Well,
that.
tell everybody where they can find you at. Tell everybody where they can find your stuff. Shameless plug. I love a good shameless plug.
I'm pretty much only on TikTok. That's where you find me. Mom Eric 911. So MOM and then ERIK 911. That's me.
That's awesome. And everybody go follow her. Her TikTok link will be linked in the bio. Morgan, thank you for joining us. I think you've had an awesome conversation. I appreciate you being open and honest and talking about some stuff that sometimes can be hard for people. That's the reason we're here. We like the hard conversations. We like hearing about your life. So thank you for joining us and giving us that.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and as always, guys, you can find a Silent War Within in a few different places, actually a lot of different places. We're kind of everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We also stream on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and we post the video version. What we're seeing in live time is actually posted on YouTube, and Spotify also has us on video. And if you want to do a big, huge favor for us, go leave us a comment, go give us a rating. That tells the platforms that we're something that you enjoy to listen to, and they'll push that to other people. So that would be awesome if you could do that. We also have a website that you can connect with us through, asilentwarwithin.com. And as always, as we close the show, we like to tell you to be safe, take care of your mind, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Morgan. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Morgan.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to A Silent War Within. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you're not alone and your well-being matters. It's time to end this silent war.